Okay, I thought I'd give you an overview of this 20-pound roaster. So you'll load your beans into this hopper. It's got a lid you can shut, and then there's this slide gate here. So you'll just leave that shut, load your beans in, and when you're ready you'll open that to drop them in. They slide down the top of this deflector here into the chamber. So with that lid being on the top of the hopper, you can actually have the fans running while you load the beans. So speaking of fans, these are the two blowers, one here and one here. They're mounted on this middle box and they suck in air through this intake. Then they blow up here and here into these two heating elements. And then there will be a temperature probe right here and right here that'll measure the temperature of the air right before it enters the chamber. So then we'll cut away here so you can see the inside of this chamber. So you can see the path of the air here up through here, through these heating elements. It gets squished down here and it goes up through this plate with holes in it. And then the air and beans will go up the face of this, the front face of the chamber, and hit this deflector and circle back around. So that's kind of the path of the beans. Get rid of this. So here's the windows. You can kind of watch the beans as they come up here. Make sure your loft is set high enough. You'll see the beans reaching at least the top of this window here, these two windows. And you'll watch them through here too. So depending on how big your batch is or how far along in the roast you are, your beans will be anywhere from here clear up to here on this window, just the bean level. And they'll just work their way down here and then blow back up, work their way down. So it gives you a really good visual of what's going on. You can shine your light in through the top here. I don't show them that there's a mount that bolts on here that holds the light. You can shine in there, or you can crank it over and shine in this window instead. This is a little tube I've got poking into some dead space here. I don't know if we can see up in there. So it's just a thin wall stainless tube. It lets you hear the beans through there a little easier than through this 1/8 inch chamber wall. Lets you hear first crack. This is the bean trier. So let me just see if we can show that a little bit better. So when you pull the trier out, there's a little flap that covers this tube, and it hinges right here on this. This is a hinge here, and that flap hinges up. When you push the trier in, it goes up. So that's why it looks like it's poking through there, just because I don't have it drawn to hinge up. But anyway, that flap seals off that tube when you pull out the trier. But then when you push it in, that flap just moves up out of the way. And there it's locked in the upside down position, so you can just leave it locked in there. Beans will just flow up and over it. So there'll be a shoulder bolt sticking out of here that lets you lock it into this tube. So you unlock it, pull it out, and you flip it over, so now it's facing up to catch the beans, and you can push it in this little slot here. Push it all the way in to get your sample. So that's how that works. The bean temperature probe sits right above this middle deflector here. So about right in this area here. It'll be poking in about right here somewhere. So that'll be right kind of in the center of the bean mass, away from the airflow. So you'll be getting true bean temperature and not a mixture of air and bean temperature like some roasters. And then there'll be another temperature probe right here. This is where the air goes out. So it'll be poking in right here, getting your exhaust air temperature. Then once your roast is done, to drop the beans, you just pick up on this weight. And that opens this door. It hinges up on this. This rod goes into bearings here and it hinges up on that. And then the beans go out through these two openings here. Into the cooling tray. I don't have it drawn, but there's a big blower that sits here, sucks through this middle hole. So it sucks air down through this cooling tray. There'll be your paddles, stirring paddles in there. And then this is a pretty standard dump gate here. It hinges right here. Just drops down out of the way and lets your beans slide out through that chute. Chaff collector, pretty standard deal here. I put a blast gate here so you can empty the bin with it running if you like. So you just shut that off, and then this is just a drawer that slides out of a box here. There'll be a couple of latches here that'll seal it in. Because this whole system has a little bit of positive pressure, which is why there's the lid here, and which is why there's going to be latches here. This whole system is going to be just slightly pressurized, because you're starting here and you're just blowing air up through the beans and out of here and out. So there's no external blower sucking air through anywhere. That's kind of the, well, I could show you the controls. This is the little manual control box. So does your heat control. It's a potentiometer for your heat control and an enable-disable switch. So if this heat switch is off, your elements will not turn on. They'll just be off. So as soon as you turn this enable switch on, then you can command whatever heat percentage you want. Same with the loft. There's an enable-disable switch and then a potentiometer. So this is for manual control. You can control this through Artisan as well, which is how the automation works. So if these potentiometers are set on 0 and the loft and the enable switches are on, then you can control it automatically through Artisan for either the heat or the loft or both. So turn your cooler blower on, and these are for the stirring arms. And then there's an LCD screen with all your temperatures and heat and fan percentage, as well as a little time. There's a timer that starts once your temperature goes above 200 Fahrenheit. It starts a timer, so if you're roasting completely manually, it's a way to keep track of your charge time, basically.